2014 can be considered a year of many things. NES Remix 2, Pushmo World, and the lack of anything else to talk about. Yeah, looking back at the Wii U's life, it truly does feel like 2013 was the last year Nintendo really tried with that system. 2014 and 2015 may have had some big releases, but the general energy around the console did not feel optimistic for the future. And something that may have contributed to that was the lack of Nintendo-published eShop content. The Wii U primarily just received virtual console titles and indie games. 2014, we really only got 2 original games from Nintendo themselves, starting off with NES Remix 2. Yeah, they wasted no time creating a follow-up to the original, this one being revealed just 2 months after the first was announced and released. Though NES Remix 2 was first shown in February and then launched in April. I feel like that kind of deflated the excitement for me. I mean, NES Remix is not the type of game you can hype up for months on end. Like, damn, did you see the leak? But this one was definitely quite a bit more interesting considering the game lineup. Oh wow, actual video games! Where's Scoon? I mean, Super Mario Bros. 2, 3, Zelda 2, Metroid, Kid Icarus, Kirby's Adventure, Dr. Mario, it's some of the greatest games on the NES, all featured in NES Remix 2. That alone makes this entry far better than the first. You'd think. I'm of the opinion that the simpler and worse games featured in NES Remix worked better with this challenge format, or at the very least, the games themselves benefited from being here. Yeah, Mario Brothers controls like ass, but that makes conquering 10-second challenges actually pretty fun and rewarding. Most of the flaws with these games don't get on my nerves in NES Remix because of how quick these are, and these older titles being this simple make them naturals for bite-sized missions. Plus, being playable in this way makes it easier to experience these titles in a modern context. NES Remix 2, the games all have more depth, they're more complicated, and thus, they are far better, but it's sort of a double-edged sword because, well, yes, the games here are great, part of me would just rather play the actual games themselves. You can't tell me you had that problem with the first game. It kind of makes the more filler challenges like hold the B button and watch the demo that much more irritating. Like, NES Remix 2 does have a slightly smaller number of challenges than the first game did, and you still include this? I do feel like the quality of challenges across the board have improved though, especially with the remixes. These have seen a noticeable improvement with far more character from this game and that game moments, which are always a blast. A ton more wacky ideas that feel like legitimate remixes rather than Photoshop filters. They also included Super Luigi Brothers, the full Super Mario Brothers game, but played backwards with Luigi. It is pretty wild how much a simple mirror mode can alter any game. Oh, and Super Mario Brothers is no different. This is a cool little bonus. But the main attraction here is the Nintendo World Championships Remix, a mode that unfortunately only appears if you own both NES Remix 1 and 2. Why can't we all just get along? I would totally buy this as its own separate game, going through Mario, Mario 3, and Dr. Mario in roughly 6 minutes, trying to get the highest score possible to end up seeing how you rank on the leaderboards. This is what I did the most in NES Remix 2, along with chipping away at the dozens upon dozens of challenges. This was great fun, and while I always appreciated how NES Remix 1 took outdated and frankly bad titles and made them fun, in the end, the second volume is definitely better than the first, which that's the best way to describe this series. 2 volumes of one big thing. NES Remix 2 is basically if NES Remix 1 kept on going. Same setup, user interface, everything. And with how quickly this released after the first, it was natural for fans to expect an NES Remix 3, 4, SNES Remix, and 64 Remix. And by June of that year, we finally got that. They just named it something weird. Pushmo World, another installment in the Mo series. Though this one reverts back to the original Pushmo with its gameplay mechanics. I mean, it's still really damn good, but there's not much to say outside of it's an HD Pushmo. It is a brand new game, it's not just the original 3DS entry on Wii U, but it might as well be. There's nothing distinctive about this one outside of it's in HD now. Why not add a multiplayer mode or something to take advantage of this being on a home console? In the end, yeah, I like this, but there's really not much else to say. It's another Pushmo on Wii U. That's it. Which, hey, that would have been perfectly fine, but man, the list just ended. That's if we don't include Japan exclusive eShop games. Interestingly enough, Nintendo released free software titled Nintendo Game Seminar 2013. This is a collection of 4 small games created by budding game designers during an event Nintendo would hold to teach how to make games just like the greats. There's not much here to write home about. These are very simple titles created within a small amount of time, but it's absolutely wonderful to see them compiled and officially released this way, even if it was only in Japan. And you know what? If we're counting that, I'll count this. Alright, Nintendo released Pikmin Short Movies HD on the Wii U eShop in November of 2014, alongside Pikmin Short Movies 3D on the 3DS eShop. Oh, well, this makes up for the months of neglect neglect. So they decided to make about 20 minutes worth of Pikmin animation, and they released the content via these apps, which are basically just video players. Nothing too special here, though it is rather cool how the 3DS version displays the shorts in 3D. The animations themselves are really cute little vignettes of Pikmin life. They show how well some of Nintendo's characters and worlds can work outside of gaming, and the fact that Nintendo eventually purchased the production company responsible for the animation here proves that they thought so too. They didn't think they had to support their damn eShop though, but it didn't matter because 2014 was a huge year for indies on the eShop. This was when Nintendo fully accepted, yeah man, shit's f***ed, and wholly embraced independent developers, really pushing them in their Nintendo Direct presentations and also netting the biggest indie game, hell, one of the biggest games of 2014 as a console exclusive. Shovel Knight was a crowd-funded love letter to some of the most iconic NES classics while aiming to do its own thing rather than be a parody. It contains elements reminiscent of DuckTales, Zelda 2, Mega Man, Super Mario Bros. 3, Castlevania, but Shovel Knight makes it all its own. Something I always respected was how Shovel Knight never references anything. Nobody in the game says it's dangerous to go alone or your princess is in another castle. That helps Shovel Knight feel like it can stand toe-to-toe with the games that inspired it, rather than forever live in their shadow. Outside of the widescreen presentation and increased color palette and detail, this feels like it could have been straight from that 8-bit era. But that shows off how Shovel Knight isn't afraid to take the best from both retro and modern gaming and create one of the tightest designed experiences of the 2010s. The gameplay? Immaculate. It can't be overstated how ingenious the checkpoint system is. You can pass through these as normal checkpoints, or you can destroy them for extra cash. They won't work as checkpoints anymore. Like, that is my go-to method to ask where it all went wrong. The controls are perfect. The levels are masterfully crafted. The world and characters feel so genuine. It's easy to see how this was considered one of the best 2014 had to offer, and it was only on PC, Wii U, and Nintendo 3DS for the first year. The 3DS version is incredible. Stereoscopic 3D, everything looks so crisp on that tinier display, and after playing the game on home console, having it in its entirety on the 3DS just feels damn cool. Shovel Knight later went on to become almost a mascot for independent game development, making numerous cameo appearances in other games, even Smash Brothers. Same level. The game went on to receive a physical release in 2015, various amiibo figures, and when crowdfunded, the developers promised multiple playable characters and extra campaigns that they continue to update the game with for the next 5 years for free. Yeah, in 2019, Shovel Knight on Wii U and 3DS received its last major update with a brand new single-player campaign and multiplayer fighter side mode. I honestly think it's unfair to compare this to how other crowdfunded indie games released because they knocked everything out of the park here. Like, back during the Kickstarter, I doubt anybody expected 4 unique campaigns and a Smash Brothers mode with all these characters when they promised them as stretch goals. Playable boss night, battle mode, that's all these were ever meant to be, and I always assumed they were just gonna be small little bonus side things. But developer Yacht Club Games did the unthinkable. They didn't make Meme Run. 2014 may have been the year Nintendo fully embraced indies. There's a dark side to that. See, at the beginning of this generation, Nintendo was still a bit picky on what would be allowed on their platform, stopping games like Binding of Isaac from coming to the 3DS due to the offensive religious imagery. But they allowed this and it has the same damn thing! The entire point of this game is how silly it is to see on a Nintendo platform. Outside of that context, I'm not really sure if it works. Hey, did you see my joke last night? That wasn't a joke, you just didn't flush the toilet! Meme Run is an auto runner where you jump inside through internet memes. It was delisted a few months after launch due to the unauthorized use of said internet memes. Interesting considering the developer stated the game failed Nintendo's approval procedure multiple times. I don't know, I feel like the makers of Meme Run think it's funny to not play by the rules. Yo, I punched a fucking baby in the face. They just let me do it. And one of the biggest names on the Wii U eShop this year was Batman. Okay, we'll get to that. Arkham Origins Blackgate Deluxe Edition, a port of the 3DS and Vita game. The Batman Arkham series got a lot of support on this platform. Next to Skylanders and Just Dance, it might have been the most frequent third-party series. What would their conversation be? F1 Race Stars came to the system as an eShop exclusive, this being an Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 retail game from 2012. That already happened with Fist of the North Star Ken's Rage 2 in 2013, a game that was produced and probably envisioned as a full retail release relegated to an eShop exclusive, more than likely due to sales projections of, no. But don't worry, this isn't the last we'll see of that. I wish. SteamWorld did got a Wii U release this year alongside Art of Balance, Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition, Tesla Grad, Costume Quest 2, Stick It to the Man, Swords and Soldiers, It'll Do, The Fall, The Swapper, Another World 20th Anniversary Edition, Thomas Was Alone, and Pure Solar, which was originally a homebrew Sega Genesis game, brought over to modern platforms, which is pretty neat. A World of Keflings, which was originally an Xbox Live Arcade title on Xbox 360, published by Microsoft, released on Wii U, which was strange. I mean, this game went nowhere else. Basically, all these games that didn't initially launch on Wii U, but got a port this year, just like Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, barely. Launching on 3DS in October of 2014, then by Christmas it launched on Wii U. Pretty quick turnaround, and that's a good thing, because the more people who could play this game, the better. In this case, it's one. Shantae and the Pirate's Curse was a big deal for eShop goers. I mean, the title that preceded it, Shantae Risky's Revenge, was considered the best damn thing on DSiWare. Though I was confused at the time due to developer WayForward launching a Kickstarter for Shantae Half Genie Hero in 2013, the first Shantae game on home console to be released in 2016. You know what? To tide you over until that, here's the first Shantae game on home console in 2014. To be fair, Half Genie Hero was to be designed from the ground up for consoles with HD hand-drawn visuals, while Pirate's Curse is more so just a 3DS game ported to Wii U. But hey, this is the kind of support Wii U needed. Not Scram Kitty and his buddy on rails. This was a Wii U exclusive originally, so Nintendo had to market it. It's fine. I mean, it's pretty unique being a mix between a platformer, shoot 'em up, and twin stick shooter. It's just one of those games that you know nobody would care about if it released today. But here it was, in the same Nintendo Direct presentation as Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Xenoblade, Bayonetta, Scram Kitty. 1001 Spikes was better because of the price point alone. Saw a little tough as nails retro platformer launched day and date across all platforms, including Wii U and 3DS. Damn, it's like this is a real console. Armillo stayed exclusive to Wii U and PC, basically out of admiration for how Nintendo treated independent developers. F you, Sony. Sports Ball was a local multiplayer-only Wii U exclusive, basically the arcade game Joust with balls. And of course, Child of Light. Launched on Wii U day and date with the other platforms, a smaller downloadable title by Ubisoft, and probably one of the highest quality eShop games to date. Seriously, look at this game. This is a Wii U eShop release, just like this. You can't say the Wii U didn't have variety. The 3DS had a bit of a slower year on the eShop in 2014, obvious by the fact it started with Steel Diver Sub Wars, Nintendo's first free-to-play title. They were already experimenting with different pricing strategies, like with Wii Sports Club, but this was structured like other free-to-play titles, where the online multiplayer is available to all who download, while other elements, specifically most of the single-player content, is locked behind a paywall. It always felt like Nintendo sort of just did this to tell their investors to shut the hell up! They were constantly pushing Nintendo to do this sort of thing. Join the mobile game space, put your games on, dear god, anything without two screens. So Nintendo said, fine, we'll make a free-to-play game. On the 3DS. Based on Steel Diver. Yeah, the 3DS launch title by Nintendo about submarines. Look everybody, it's the guy who gave a shit. Where'd he go? I had choice to make a follow-up, but when you're looking to experiment with free-to-play, why not experiment with a franchise you have nothing to lose with? Sub Wars didn't hook me at all, but it's for sure more interesting than the original Steel Divers, simply due to the fact it's in first person now. But overall, I couldn't really care less about this one. Though, in contrast, things can't be further from the truth about Nintendo's other free-to-play offering this year. Rusty's Real Deal Baseball is this amazing hybrid between a sports arcade minigame collection and visual novel. It's all about talking to Rusty, who owns a baseball video game shop. You want to butter him up by telling him what he wants to hear, giving him items and make it easier to haggle the prices of the games you buy. Yeah, since this is a free download, you can play it for a bit, but afterwards you have to purchase the rest of the games with real-world money, though the real-world price you pay is dependent on how much you can haggle with a dog. This is still one of the most unique implementations of in-game purchases. Sure, the haggling is scripted, there is a limit to how much Rusty is willing to go down, but you can decide whether to keep pushing for a lower price and use discount coupons you earn playing the games, or say, you know what, he earned this. The games themselves are really simple, but quite addicting and fun, even though 100% this wouldn't be for everybody. While I think the pricing structure is pretty cool, others may find it insulting. I still feel that this is one of the eShop's greats. Even when forced into a corner to conform to industry trends, Nintendo still finds a way to be Nintendo. And then there's Pokemon Battle Troze, sequel to this DS game, which the only thing I can really say about is I like the box art. This looks really modern for a 2006 DS game, you know? This is pretty much like any other icon linking puzzle game you'd find on a smartphone, but it does bring over the strategy of the mainline Pokemon series. You link up the icons of a certain Pokemon, it'll do an attack to the Pokemon on the top of the screen you're battling against. And because certain types of Pokemon are weak against other certain types of Pokemon, you can keep that in mind to defeat your enemy quicker. I don't, I just move the funny pictures around. It's hard to criticize a game like this when it was always meant to be just there. Do you really think the game developer said, we're about to change the goddamn world? It's fine for what it is. If you wanted to play a puzzle game, you could do worse than this. It's just kind of shockingly bland for using the Pokemon license. The boring backgrounds, generic animations and menus, it's just one of those games you question how you're spending your time when you play it. Like these two games, Kirby Fighters Deluxe and D2D's Drum Dash Deluxe. These were sub-games featured in Kirby Triple Deluxe, now re-released on their own for 7 bones a pop. Why stop there? Could you offer that game's menu for 5? Listen, I'm not opposed to the idea of taking these mini-games and expanding upon them for a full-blown eShop release. I just don't think they did that. D2D's Drum Dash is a pretty fun little rhythm game, but there's just not enough content here in my opinion to warrant this being its own release. I beat the whole thing in under an hour, and sure, you may want to go back and get high scores, but I don't. Kirby Fighters Deluxe is a similar story, though I feel this works better as a standalone thing if you just want a cheap Smash Bros. Clone on 3DS. But these reek of what Nintendo used to do on DSiWare, chop DS games up and offer them as smaller downloadable titles. Like, yeah, I see the strategy and a bit of the appeal back then. It was nice to have these slices of games always available on your system, but when you straight up are offering retail games on the eShop for download, this whole thing is starting to fall apart. But here comes Chibi Robo Photo Finder to save the day. Nintendo resurrected Chibi Robo! Ah! Yep, so Chibi Robo is back after a hiatus lasting a few years. This game still controls similarly to previous entries, though now focuses on taking photos, 3 years after the 3DS launched. Yeah, you can't really make a game focused around this thing in any year that doesn't end in 11 or 12. It's just not a good camera, and by this point, nobody was being wowed by anything on the 3DS other than games that were just flat out good games. You focus on making a game surrounding the 3D effect, the gyroscope, the AR, the camera, nobody's gonna care at this point. So yeah, this game did not deserve this kind of reception, but it is damn obvious why it got it. Didn't stop Nintendo from holding a Chibi Robo photo contest. Could get this Chibi Robo Wii U by playing Chibi Robo Photo Finder. If anything, you're scaring people off. Inazuma 11 finally made its way over to North America this year as an eShop exclusive, a soccer RPG by Level 5. It just won't stop in Japan and Europe, but it did on its first try over here. Retro City Rampage DX on 3DS. That was cool to see, especially because they still refuse to do a Wii U version. 2048, crank the fucking 3D up. Moon Chronicles was a remake of the original DS game Moon, being released episodically now, plus having the audacity to be one of the only first-person shooters on 3DS. Good for it, that's awesome! That's also precisely why I was never interested. Azure Striker Gunvolt released, the spiritual successor to the Mega Man Zero series. That was an incredible 2D action game. That interestingly launched alongside a companion title, Mighty Gunvolt, a crossover between it and the upcoming Mighty Number 9. This was during the great Mega Man drought of the 2010s, so getting a classic Mega Man-like experience on top of a Mega Man Zero-like experience on the same day by the developers of both Mega Man 9, 10, and the Zero series, with Mighty Gunvolt featuring the protagonist of the upcoming Mega Man spiritual successor. Well, the rest of it was good. Whoa Dave and Zeo Drifter were nice little indie releases, but other than that, it was a bit of a softer year for 3DS, with Wii U getting some more attention. And with Epic Dumpster Bear releasing soon, it better pick up the pace.